Welcome to Humble Beginnings, the Undrafted podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Hamilton Jr. This is episode 41 of the Undrafted podcast. Man, this podcast has come such a long way, man, and I'll just get right into it. I'm excited for what's on the show today. Here are the things that I'll be dishing on the show today. There's a new football league that debuted over the weekend, the Alliance of American Football, and I got to tell you, I really like this new football league. I mean, I'm a football guy, so the fact that we get football this time of year after the Super Bowl, and the fact that it's actually a really good product makes me happy, because we've seen different football leagues that come and go, like the XFL and the Arena Football League and all these other football leagues that have, tried to be spinoffs and things like that. We've seen them come out the gate strong and kind of just falter. But this one seems like it's got some staying power, so I'm excited about that. Kyler Murray he shocked some people. He didn't really shock me. I kind of knew the direction he was going to take, but he's following his heart straight to the National Football League, and a lot of people are asking, did he make the right choice? I'll talk about that. And what's the wave with Chef Rodaddy? I'm going to talk about an issue that we really need to start taking more serious as people, and that issue is belly fat, the silent killer. We talk a lot about people being overweight and obese and things like that, but we don't really talk. We know that one of the signs of being unhealthy, being overweight, being obese, is the sign of a big belly. Well, I'll tell you why belly fat is something that we really need to get serious about if we're serious about turning around this obesity epidemic that is plaguing our country and is really kind of starting to plague the world. I'll get more in depth into that in just a minute. And this is some bull jive. And one thing I don't understand is why fans get so upset with athletes when they make career decisions that have no bearing on sports fans on a personal level at all. So I'll talk about that. So without further ado, let's get right into it with The Low with Ro. The Alliance of American Football is the newest professional football league in the country, and it debuted on Saturday night, and I must say, like I said in the opener, I love this product. The Alliance of American Football is composed of 8 teams that are mostly located in the southern half of the United States, except for the Salt Lake City Stallions. Now, first off, it should be noted that this league is not in competition with the NFL. I'm digging this new football league. I can't say it enough. This is the developmental league, and it's full of guys who are either trying to make it to the NFL, who played or coached in the NFL, and they're hoping this will land them another job in the league. And some are just guys who know that they'll never play in the NFL, but it's a great opportunity to continue their football career. Now, me personally, I think this is more of a farm type league for the NFL, and this is a great opportunity for the NFL to take some of the things that this league is doing and learn from it and add it to what they do already. Now, the rules of this league, they're similar to the NFL in a lot of ways, but it does differentiate itself from the NFL in a number of ways. And honestly, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL takes some of the stuff that the AAF brings to the table and adds it to what it does already. Now, the first thing that I noticed in the Alliance is the instant replay system. Now, in the Alliance, there's a camera in the instant replay booth, and you can hear the official view the video, debate the call, and move forward from there. Now, this is the transparency that people love, and sports fans love transparency. Well, society itself loves transparency, and it's really cool to see the behind-the-scenes type of stuff. Now, with all this noise that's surrounding the NFL with calls, blown calls, bad calls, no calls, this and that and the other, bad officiating and things like that in the NFL's instant replay system, I know the NFL may make some changes down the road at some point, but I could vehemently disagree that the NFL will ever allow a camera and a mic into their instant replay booths. The NFL has not really been known for being transparent, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take some of the ideas from this and figure out a way to add it to their own, their officiating department and that whole umbrella. Another thing that the Alliance, I'm going to call this league the Alliance because the initials are AAF, but that doesn't really roll off the tongue. So I'm going to call it the Alliance. Another thing that the Alliance has done is eliminate the PAT, the point after touchdown. It's all about 2-point conversions, and there's no kickoffs. Possessions start at each team's own 25-yard line, so you do get more offense in this league. Now, I can almost guarantee you that the NFL is going to adopt this in the future because they've been trying to do away with kickoff and kickoff returns for the better part of the last decade. Now, the thing that I don't like about the no kickoffs, because if you're a football traditionalist, you're going to hate the no kickoff thing. I'll just be honest with you right now. If you haven't seen this league, the thing that I don't like about no kickoffs is we don't get to see those exciting kickoff returns from the Devin Hesters of the football world. So it does kind of take away that suspense of whenever you see the ball kicked off and it's like, man, who is it they have back there? Is such and such going to run the ball out? And, how far down the field is he going to get? Is he going to be able to score? Sometimes you just really like to see how fast these dudes are when they get in open space and they can just really, open up the throttle and turn on those jets. And then also, there's a part of fans that really like to see those big hits on special teams returns. And I know the NFL is trying to get away from that from a player safety standpoint. So I can almost guarantee that the NFL is they're going to integrate this into what they do at some point down the line. As far as the defense goes, this is another thing that I can see the NFL implementing to what they do down the line at some point. Not really sure how players and coaches will feel about it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. In the Alliance, defenses, they can't blitz more than 5 players at a time. So, again, the NFL, they're big on player safety, so I wouldn't be surprised if they try to work this in to their rules at some point. TV timeouts. There's no TV timeouts in this league. Thank you, God. There's no TV timeouts. Now, I can guarantee you 150% that the National Football League is not going to take this approach. In the Alliance, there's fewer commercials overall in these games. And with that, the Alliance of American Football League, those games, they're about 2.5 hours long compared to 3 hours for the NFL. Now, like I said, we'll never see the NFL cut out TV commercials. 1, because advertisers know that the NFL is a great way for their product to be seen. And 2, the NFL ain't turning down no money. I can guarantee you that. Another big difference that I noticed in the Alliance games that I was able to see when I tuned in over the weekend, they let these dudes light up the quarterback. Now, now in the NFL, you can still hit them, but I mean, it's like, Lord, NFL rules when it comes to the quarterback, they're so airtight now, and quarterbacks are so protected that defenses, they're almost scared to even sneeze on these dudes. But over here in the Alliance of American Football, these quarterbacks can get lit up. Now, the biggest hit over the weekend was when San Antonio Commanders linebacker Sean Washington, he hit San Diego Fleet quarterback Mike Bercovici so hard, his helmet flew off. And, man, if you haven't seen the hit, just get on YouTube and search Sean Washington and Mike Bercovici. And it'll pop up and you'll see that video, man. If you're a football purist, a football traditionalist, or if you're just a casual fan who likes the violent part of the game, and I hate to put it like that, but there are people out there that like that. If you're one of those people, you're going to like this hit. And the ironic thing is, the NFL is trying to take away these hard hits on the quarterback, but Washington's hit on Bercovici was a perfectly legal hit because he hit him straight in the chest. He just hit him so hard, it depleted him. But even in the NFL, it's a legal hit. It's refreshing to see guys be able to really just play football without all the crazy rules, without all the rules being bent towards the offense to create more points and create more scores. I get it. The NFL has a bottom line to protect. I get all that. But if you really just want to tune in and just watch a football game from a football aspect and see football the way that it's supposed to be played in one of its purest forms, you're going to like the Alliance of American Football. Trust me. And like I'm saying, the NFL, they could really learn a thing or two from this league. And don't be surprised, the NFL, they did that with the XFL back in the day, because the reason why we have the sky cams and all these different angles and stuff right now in the NFL is because of the XFL. They brought a lot of that innovation to television back in 2001, and the NFL just absorbed it. So I won't be surprised to see the big boy absorb some of the ideas from this league as well. Now, another thing that I like about the Alliance of American Football, they mic up their quarterbacks. So it gets you a lot closer to the action in a way that, really fans haven't been able to do. And it kind of gets you inside these guys' heads a little bit. Now, the TV censors, they may not always appreciate it because there are a few colorful words that come out. I mean, these guys are in the heat of competition. They caught Christian Hackenberg using a few choice words on Saturday night's broadcast that I thought was kind of funny. But it's a new aspect that really hadn't been done before. Now, in the NFL, they have mics down there on the field. And, they have sound guys down there on the sideline, and you can kind of hear, like, say, for instance, when Peyton Manning was in, and you would always hear him say, Omaha, Omaha, kill, 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 things like that. You would hear him say all those different audibles. You can actually hear that. But I know sometimes in the NFL, teams, they really kind of try to fight these broadcast partners as far as, trying to limit, things that they can say. And the AAF is kind of similar as well. They don't let everything come out, but it is interesting to be able to hear some of the things that these guys talk about between the huddles and things like that. Another thing that the Alliance does that the NFL definitely won't do is you can hear some of the coaches' radio calls. You can hear some of the things that they say in the broadcast. So that's another really cool aspect. Now, like I said, the NFL is not big on transparency, so I can almost guarantee you that part ain't going to happen. But it is cool to see some of this stuff happen, things that we're not really used to seeing in professional sports games. Now, the craziest stat that I saw concerning the Saturday night's games, there were 2 games in the AAF on Saturday night, and then there were 2 Sunday afternoon. The craziest stat that I saw concerning Saturday night's games had nothing to do with the on-field stuff. It was the TV ratings. Now, Saturday night's broadcast for the Alliance averaged 3 million viewers for both games. Now, that's a 2.1 rating in TV terms. That ended up beating the NBA's Game of the Week between the Houston Rockets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, which was a great game, by the way. And I can't believe Houston lost that game. They were up by 26 points, and yet and still they let Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and the Thunder come back and win that contest. Now, as far as the Alliance goes, I really hope they keep these numbers up because this is a really good product. I really like what I saw over the weekend. Now, the thing is, things always start off well because of the curiosity factor. Fans always tune in high numbers because they want to see what this new thing is. The XFL did the same thing almost 2 decades ago, and then the ratings just steadily fell, and the XFL crumbled after one season. Now, speaking of the XFL, it's coming back next year in 2020. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that whole dynamic plays out because it's gonna play. I think the XFL is gonna debut around the same time as the Alliance of American Football. So with that, we're gonna kind of run the risk of football saturation because just like with anything else in life, you can have too much of a good thing. And one of the draws of the NFL is the fact that fans only get it 4 or 5 months out of the year. The rest were stuck with football withdrawals. So that's one of the draws of the NFL. That's what really drives that suspense factor when you're watching your squad down there on the field handle business. Now, as far as the Alliance of American Football, there's 8 teams in this league. The Atlanta Legends, the Birmingham Iron, Memphis Express, Orlando Apollos, Arizona Hotshots, Salt Lake Stallions, San Antonio Commanders, and the San Diego Fleet. Now, NFL fans, they'll know some of the names in the AAF. They got guys like Trent Richardson. He's a running back for the Birmingham Iron. Of course, he was the former running back for the Colts and the Browns. He was a high draft pick, but, he kind of sputtered out in the NFL. He didn't kind of sputter out. He sputtered out in the NFL. Christian Hackenberg, I talked about him a little bit earlier. He's a quarterback for the Memphis Express. He was a second-round pick for the Jets back in 2016. He did not have a good NFL career at all. Mike Singletary, legendary linebacker for the Chicago Bears, Hall of Famer. He's a head coach for the Memphis Express. Michael Vick, legendary quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. He's the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Legends. Now, there's a bunch of other former NFL stars. Of course, I don't have time to list them all that play in this league. Now, unlike the NFL, and this is one battle that the Alliance of American Football is going to have to figure out how to meander, this league does not have star quality. There's no superstar players on any of these squads. And the dynamic in this league is a little bit different because of that. You won't see a guy getting, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers like treatment or calls. The most well-known Alliance quarterback is Christian Hackenberg. And basically, he's just known because of how bad he was in the NFL. Now, as much as I enjoyed watching the Alliance over the weekend, the biggest question is going to be whether or not this model that they have will be sustainable because a lot of these guys, a lot of them are NFL cast-offs. A lot of them are guys that could make it into the league. So, they're a little bit slower, they're maybe not as fast, maybe not as strong. As much as I enjoyed watching the Alliance over the weekend, the biggest question is whether or not this model that they have will be sustainable. Is this going to be a sustainable long-term success, or is this just something that's hot for right now? The good thing is they do have support from the NFL because they've got Some of their games are going to be shown on the NFL Network, and then they've got the big TV deal with CBS Sports Network. So money and investment, that's definitely not an issue with this league. Now, I hope this league sticks around. I really do, because this proves that there's, basically almost a year-round demand for football. I mean, football is truly America's sport. And I really don't see that slowing down anytime soon. Now, it remains to be seen what's going to happen long-term in the future for the AAF. But as of right now, after what I saw over the weekend, I think they got a bright future. All right, now it's time to move on to I'm in and I'm out. Kyler Murray announced on Twitter on Monday that he is, quote, fully committing my life and time to becoming an NFL quarterback, end quote. Now, this finally put the question of whether or not he would choose football or baseball to bed. This whole deal comes 4 days before he was scheduled to report to spring training with the Oakland A's, who drafted him with the 9th pick in the first round of the MLB draft. But you know what? This really shouldn't surprise anybody, because Kyler Murray made his desire to possibly pursue the NFL known several weeks ago. So anybody who's surprised by this has been living under a rock. I'm 100% in on him choosing the NFL over the MLB at this point, because at the end of the day, man, this young man has to follow his heart. Sure, he's small for the NFL. He's only 5'9", maybe 5'10", and 175, 180 pounds. And he can make more money in the MLB over the long run, but he's got to follow his heart. Well, you know what? A lot of people say that he can make more money in the MLB long run, but if you really kind of think about it, I'm not so sure that's the case, because Kyler Murray is going into the NFL as a quarterback. Well, quarterback in the NFL is the most valuable asset on the field. And if you're even a halfway decent quarterback in the NFL right now, you can easily rack up a contract anywhere from $20 to $25 million. I mean, there's guys like Mike Glennon, who's a backup, and he was getting paid like $12 or $13 million. I mean, there's no shortage of backup quarterbacks in the NFL who are basically robbing teams. So Kyler Murray, if he's just halfway decent in the league and he has a really good agent, he can make some money in the National Football League, and he won't have to worry about football, or he won't have to worry about baseball. But like I said, he's got to follow his heart. He likes baseball, but he loves football. And if he were to go the baseball route and not at least take a shot at football, then he's always going to have that regret in the back of his mind and that what-if question nagging at him mentally. And that's something you can't shake. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Period. And even if he tries for the NFL and it doesn't work out, well, that's cool too, because Kyler Murray, he's only 21 years old. So let's say he tries for the NFL. And let's say, after 2 or 3 years, the NFL doesn't work. Well, at that point, he's only 24, 25 years old at the most. And he can still go play baseball if he wants. But at least at that point, he can look back and he can say, you know what? I gave everything I had to football. And you know what? It didn't work out. And even though it didn't work out, I gave it my best. And you know what? I can live with that. I'm good. And the way the MLB is set up, no matter where you get drafted, you can get drafted with the first pick, you can get drafted with the last pick, or anywhere in the middle. When you get drafted in the MLB, the first thing you have to do is you have to play for some farm team at the different, between one of the different minor league levels that the MLB has. And those teams take buses everywhere. Now, it's real hard to go from flying on chartered flights at a big D1 school to taking a bus everywhere. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys in the MLB who rode those buses all the way to $100 and $200 million contracts. For $100 million, I will ride a bus everywhere for $100 million. I will push a bus for $100 million. You can believe that. But with Murray's decision, he forfeits the $4.5 million signing bonus from the A's, but it's worth the risk. Now, as far as contracts go and things like that, he'll get a signing bonus once he gets drafted in the NFL, because he's projected to go in the first round. He's projected to go within the first half of the first round of the NFL draft. And if this happens, if he does get drafted in the first round, he will be the first player ever to be drafted in the first round of the MLB draft and the first round of the NFL draft. Think about how big that is. Bo Jackson didn't do that. Deion Sanders didn't do that. I mean, that is a huge, huge deal if this happens for this young man. Now, as far as contracts go with the draft and everything else, I mean, you got to look at guys like Lamar Jackson. He was the last pick in last year's draft, and I think he got like a $5 million signing bonus. And for the length of his contract, I think it's 4 or 5 years, and he's going to make $7.5, $8 million over that time. So it's not like Kyler Murray is just not going to make money in the NFL. And as far as people saying he can make more money in the MLB in the long run, while that may be true, if you want the quick money, the NFL is the way to go when you break down the contracts in the way they're spread out. And then when you factor in having to go to a farm team for, 2, 3, 4 years or whatever, that's the way to go if you're looking for the quick money. So like I said, Murray's projected to be a first-round pick. As far as picks go, I'm not really sure. I don't even know if Kyler Murray's going to make it past the 10th pick, to be honest. I could see Arizona maybe taking a chance on him. Now, Cliff Kingsbury, he loves Kyler Murray. And even though they just drafted Josh Rosen last year, and, Cliff Kingsbury gave him the dreaded vote of confidence, saying that, Josh Rosen is our guy and this and the other. When it comes down to the draft, man, I wouldn't be surprised. Anything can happen at the draft. I wouldn't be surprised to see Arizona trade Josh Rosen on draft day. And if Arizona doesn't take him, well, you got Jacksonville sitting there at spot 7. They're all but done with Blake Bortles. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Jacksonville possibly take a shot on him. And the thing about Kyler Murray, he brings an electrifying style of play to the game, man. I love to watch this kid play. Now, I liked watching him at OU this past season. He managed to throw for over 4,300 yards, and he had 42 touchdowns. And this was just last season. And this is with one of the sorriest defenses in all of college football. One of the most memorable games I saw last season was that game between Texas and OU, the first time the Red River Shootout came about. That was a great game between OU and Texas, and Kyler Murray, he did his thing. He burned the Texas defense, and he almost single-handedly brought Oklahoma into winning that game. That was a great game between these two squads, but that game, the Red River Shootout, is generally always a great contest. But yeah, that was one of the more memorable games that I saw last season. Now, Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson, they're the only two college football quarterbacks to throw for 4,000 yards and rush for at least 1,000 yards in the same season. Now, like I said earlier, Kyler Murray, he's small for an NFL quarterback, but Russell Wilson is a small quarterback as well, and he's done okay in the NFL, I guess. I mean, he's had an all right career, I guess you could say. Now, the difference between Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, I think Russell Wilson measured at 5'9" and 7/8, and Kyler Murray measured in at 5'9" and 5/8. So I mean, that's like less than half an inch difference. So there's not a big difference between the two of them height-wise. Where Russell Wilson has Kyler Murray beat, he's a little bit stockier than Kyler Murray. So that Kyler Murray, he may have to put on some weight to get to the league. But the thing is, a lot of people say, he's too small, he's going to get beat up. These big defensive linemen and linebackers in the NFL, his body's not going to be able to withstand the hits. And he's going to get hit. We know that. But the way the NFL protects quarterbacks today, it's not like it was when John Elway and Dan Marino and Terry Bradshaw and all those dudes were playing. Those dudes used to get mashed by defenses. I mean, defenses used to be able to terrorize quarterbacks. But with the way the NFL protects quarterbacks now, Kyler Murray has a pretty good shot. Also, when you factor in that the NFL is bringing in a lot of these college concepts and a lot of these high-flying, air raid offenses from college, that is a factor that's going to help him out. Then also last year, 62% of all NFL plays were ran out of the shotgun last year. So shotgun is perfect when you have a smaller quarterback because he can see more of the field. He can see more downfield. I mean, it's not like he's going to be coming out from under center, doing those 3, 5, and 7-step drop backs. So Kyler Murray has a lot going for him in the NFL, and really, to be honest with you, he's coming into the NFL at the perfect time. He couldn't have picked a better time to try and make his NFL career take off. Then another quarterback that you could compare him to, Drew Brees. I mean, Drew Brees is a smaller guy. Drew Brees is maybe 5'10". He might be 5'11". And Drew Brees, he's had an okay career. I mean, I guess you could say it's okay. I mean, he's done okay in the NFL. So Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, even Baker Mayfield last year. They said Baker Mayfield was too small and everything else as well. He came out last year and he killed it. So these three guys, they've shown that it's possible with the right system and the right coaching in place for a smaller guy to have a successful career as an NFL quarterback. Now, I noticed the key word I said there was coaching, because coaching is everything. And with the way the NFL is chasing after all these college concepts, like I talked about earlier, Kyler Murray, he should feel right at home. So if you put him in the right system and you get the right system of coaching around him, Kyler Murray, I think, is going to be good. Because we've seen, and this is another thing, people have to let go of this whole prototypical size and height for a quarterback. Because we've seen guys come into the NFL They've got that prototypical size, that prototypical height, 6'2", anywhere from 6'2" to 6'5", 215, 220 pounds, big hands, all that. Got all the measurables. We've seen them come in and be straight up trash. And if you don't believe me, just look down the roster of all 32 NFL teams, and I guarantee you'll see about 15 or 20 of those dudes who fit that very description, and they're in the league right now, and they are straight up trash. NFL folks and media people as well, they love to say something can't be done. They love to say somebody can't do this, that, and the other until somebody comes along and actually does it. Kyler Murray just might be that dude. What's the wave with Chef Rodaddy? Now, this is the part of the podcast where I cook up something for you, whether it's physical food or brain food. And today's going to be a little bit of both. Now, last week in episode 40, I talked about how obesity has been linked as one of the main causes in the rise of certain cancers in younger Americans. And as annoying as the demon known as obesity is, if you're fighting it, this week I'm going to talk about one of his cousins, belly fat. Now, one of the most common indicators, if not the single most common indicator that a person is not as healthy as they could be or should be, is the sight of a big belly. And I'm not saying any of this to be funny. Trust me, I'm not. I fought this battle. I'm not saying any of this to be funny because this is no laughing matter. And belly fat is a serious issue. Belly fat is a silent killer, and we really need to take it more serious. Now, in society, we're in an era right now where if we point out that someone is overweight or that having a protruding belly is to be taken seriously, you might be accused of fat shaming somebody. And as far as this podcast goes, nothing could be further from the truth. Now, I'm bringing this up because I've been down that road. I'm fighting this same battle. This is why this is why I'm even doing this segment, because I'm passionate about this. I've been down this road. I've had that big belly. I've fought this battle. And now that I'm dropping my weight, now that I got my weight in control, I'm handling my business, I want to use my struggles, my progress, my mistakes, and my lessons that I've learned to help and inspire other people. Now, I used to have a big belly. I used to have a huge belly. I didn't even realize how big my belly was. And I still got a little bit there because I'm still a work in progress. I haven't hit my goal yet, but I am so close to my goal. Thank you, God, I'm so close to my goal. But I used to have this big belly, and I used to have the big spare tire. I used to have the big love handle. So trust me, if you're in this situation, I know what you're going through. I know how you feel. I know what you're thinking. Been there. So I'm saying all of this from experience. Now, I've been blessed to be still healthy. I've never came down with diabetes or any kind of obesity-related illness. I'm generally not a sick person as it is. So I've been extremely blessed by the good Lord in that aspect. Now, not only is excess fat not a good look on the outside, it is dangerously unhealthy on the inside. Having excess body fat is not just about aesthetics or looking good from a physical standpoint. It's not just about looking good so your dating life takes off or any of that. I mean, that's all cool if that's what you're going for. But getting rid of this fat demon is about your health and your wellness on the inside. Now, most belly fat or deep fat, as sometimes it's known as, is made up of what's called visceral fat. Now, there's different types of body fat, and I'll break that down next week. Now, I said on here last week that belly fat is the devil, and it is. And here's why. If you have a large belly and a large waist, that's a clear sign that you're storing large amounts of visceral fat. And visceral fat is deadly. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm not saying that to be funny. Visceral fat is deadly because visceral fat not only stores in your belly, but it will literally store all over your body. Wherever it can store and post up, it will. It will store in your belly, your chest, your back, your sides, your legs, your buttocks, your arms, even your face. Visceral fat literally latches onto your major internal organs such as your heart, your liver, your pancreas, your lungs, your intestines. Visceral fat is so deceptive that it can even show up in thinner people. This is where body composition comes into play. Now, I said last week on the podcast, when it comes down to weight control, weight loss, whatever you want to call it, don't focus so much on how much you weigh. Focus on your body composition. Focus on how much body fat you have. Because you can take a man that's 230 pounds. Let's say you take a guy, he's 5'10", 230 pounds. If this guy is 5'10", 230 pounds with 15 to 17% body fat, he is a perfectly healthy male. But if you take a man that's 5'10", 230 pounds, and he has 30% body fat, then he's got high body fat. He's comprised of too much body fat. That's how you want to measure it. Don't worry about how much you weigh. The scale only tells you part of the equation. And the reason why I say visceral fat can be deceptive even in thinner people, you can be thin and still have high body fat. And this is what doctors call being skinny fat. And here's why deep belly fat is so scary. Deep belly fat is metabolically active, like I said on this podcast last week, and it's been strongly linked to increased risk of disease like heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, and for men, decreased levels of testosterone. Now, with this particular fat, you're not going to get rid of it by sitting down and doing a bunch of crunches or ab exercises to burn it. And if that's what you're thinking, you can forget about it. Throw it out, because visceral fat is buried beneath the abdominal wall. Hence the name deep fat. So when you do crunches and ab exercises and things like that, you're building your ab muscles, you're toning those up. But the problem with that is deep belly fat is below your abdominal wall. So really all you're doing, you might be burning a little bit of the fat that's on top of your abs, but you're not really getting down to the root of the problem, which is the visceral fat, the fat that's below that abdominal wall. The only way to get rid of this fat and the only way to break that fat down is a balanced lifestyle change when it comes to your nutrition and consistent moderate to heavy exercises like brisk walking, sprints, interval running, and weight training. There's no other way around it, period. Now, you could go and do surgery, but personally, I don't advise people to get surgery unless you're physically unable to exercise. So why is belly fat so dangerous? And why is this so important for us to know when it comes to our well-being? Belly fat is essentially an endocrine organ that makes its own hormones and a bunch of other chemicals and substances like fatty acid. Now, not only does it make these demons, but it distributes them throughout your body by your bloodstream. Now, one of these substances is called retinol binding protein 4, which has been found to increase the risk of coronary heart disease. Now, one of the most harmful effects of this protein is insulin resistance, which opens the door for type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome, which is basically a complex of several cardiac risk factors. Now, last week, I talked about the dangers of obesity in men. So this week, I'm going to discuss the women a little bit. According to an article in the New York Times, a Korean study found that the chance of getting colorectal cancer nearly doubled among postmenopausal women who had high amounts of visceral fat. A study in Mumbai, India, of more than 3,000 premenopausal and postmenopausal women found that those whose waists were almost as big as their hips were 3 to 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer as women who were normal weight. A Dutch study found a link to both total body fat and belly fat raised the risk of breast cancer. When these women who participated in this study lost weight, their biomarkers for breast cancer, which were like estrogen, leptin, and inflammatory proteins, showed a reduction in breast cancer risk. Now, these women in this study lost an average of 12 pounds apiece. So if losing 12 pounds shows that significant of a reduction in the risk of these issues, imagine what losing 30, 40, 50 or more pounds will do for you. And another thing that excess body fat does is it raises your triglyceride levels. Now, triglycerides are good fats that circulate in the blood that helps our body use up energy. But when there's too many triglycerides in the blood, particularly when there's too much bad cholesterol, which is known as LDL, and too little good cholesterol, which is known as HDL, your risk for heart attack, stroke, and acute pancreatitis increase. So how does one accumulate belly fat? And I know that sounds like a crazy question, but you'd be surprised at the amount of people that don't know or don't realize how you accumulate belly fat. You accumulate belly fat over time from too much sugary food, too many sugary drinks, too much processed food, too many starches, and too many bad carbs. Because basically what happens when you eat these foods often or in excess is it causes blood sugar spikes that trigger insulin release throughout the body. Now, over time, if the body doesn't get rid of all this energy, it stores it. So basically, all fat is energy that's been stored up in your body that your body has not used. And that's why it's so important for you to exercise if you're trying to get your weight under control, if you're trying to lose body fat. Because basically, when you start exercising and you're eating right, which means it's putting you at a caloric deficit, well, your body's not able to use all these calories that it's getting from your food, so it starts looking other sources for the energy that you're expending during your workouts. So when it starts looking for that energy, guess where the first place is going to go for that energy? It's going to go for the fat cells that's been stored up. It's going to go for that fat. Why? Because fat is stored up energy. That's all it is. And if you're counting calories and everything else, just remember 3,500 calories equal a pound of fat. So if you can burn, let's say you work out 5 days a week. If you burn 500 calories per workout, which is not really a whole lot when you really sit down and think about it, if you work out 5 days a week and burn 500 calories per week, that's an extra 2,500 calories that you've already gotten rid of. Not to mention the calories that your body uses just throughout the day. So if you're watching what you eat and you exercise and you're just exercising moderately, getting rid of 500 calories per workout 5 days a week, you can drop a pound to a pound and a half worth of body fat a week. It's hard, but it's really not as hard as we make it out to be when you really sit down and you think about it. So like I said, over time, when our body can't get rid of all this energy that's been taken in from the things that we're eating and the reaction that it causes with insulin inside our bodies, it stores it. And the body's favorite place to start storing fat and constantly store it is the midsection. So now that I've given you all this doom and gloom, now that I've given you all these Armageddon scenarios and things like that, how do we turn this around? And I say we because I'm in the same boat. I fought this battle, and trust me, I know how hard it is. So if you're fighting this battle just like me, or if you fought this battle just like me, keep pushing. It's hard, but it is definitely worth it. We turn this around by cutting out the sugary food and drinks. Cut out the candy, the cookies, the cakes, the burgers, the burritos, the sodas, etc. Cut out eating all that stuff on a regular basis. Now, it's okay to enjoy them in moderation every once in a while, but you must drastically reduce your intake. Remember, 80% healthy, balanced, nutritional foods, 20% fun foods. It's okay to have cheat meals and things like that, but just in moderation. Cut out the starchy, bad carb foods like fries, burgers, pizza, calzones, etc. A lot of the good stuff. Again, everything in moderation. 80% healthy, minimally processed, balanced, nutritious foods. 20% fun foods. Drink more water. Me personally, I drink 1 gallon to 1.5 gallons a day. You don't have to do that, but just get more water in your system. Now, the more water you drink, the more your body's going to crave it, and naturally, you'll drink more water over time. Eat fruit. When it comes to a sweet tooth, eat fruit to curb your sweet tooth. Now, we have to watch it with fruit because fruit, even though it's a natural sugar, fruit does contain sugar. So if you're trying to watch your weight, if you're trying to lose body fat, portion control is everything. So eat 2 to 3 small servings of fruit a day. And when I say fruit, I mean fresh fruit. Don't eat canned fruit. That's a lot of extra sugar from the syrup and things like that. Frozen fruit has a lot of extra sugar and things like that because of the way they process it. So 2 to 3 small servings of fresh fruit a day. Eat green leafy vegetables, 3 to 4 servings a day. I love green vegetables. And the thing about green vegetables, you can eat green vegetables. You can basically eat as many of them as you want, because green vegetables, you almost have to eat like a truckload of spinach or greens, broccoli, kale, bok choy. You have to eat like a truckload of that to even get to like 200 calories. So you can eat almost as many green vegetables as you want. I personally eat about 3 to 4 servings a day. When it comes down to protein, eat lean cuts of protein: chicken, turkey, fish. Not fried. You got to bake it or grill it. Chicken, turkey, or fish. Chicken, turkey, or fish. When it comes down to the gym, cardio, weights, core exercises. When it comes to cardio, high intensity cardio is best. Sprints, interval runs, walking on inclines, brisk walking, things like that. When it comes down to the weights, strength train. Hit each muscle group twice a week and try to get 8 to 12 reps per set. Now, I know a lot of people like to do, 15 to 20 reps, and that's okay. But you have to watch it with that because you're toning muscle, but don't get so caught up on just, I don't want to gain big muscles and this, that, and the other, because I've heard people say that. And really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're doing 8 to 12 reps or if you're doing 15 to 20 reps. Either way, you're building your muscle up. So when it comes down to weights, lift for strength. Go, don't be afraid to progressively overload and work your muscles. That's how you build the muscle. That's how you tone up the muscle, is you give it more than it can handle under a short amount of time. You stress it out. Now, don't stress it out to the point that you injure it, but you want to stress the muscle and you want to fatigue the muscle. So do that. Remember that when it comes down to weights. Remember to keep it moderate to heavy, 8 to 12 reps a set. When it comes down to ab and core exercises, weighted crunches, Russian twist, leg lifts, planks, scissors, and there's so many different ab and core exercises that you can do. You won't have an issue mixing it up. Next week, I'm going to talk about the different kinds of fat, the good fat that you need to survive, and more on this demonic visceral fat. Here's the thing, y'all. We will beat this, y'all. We just got to put our mind to it, and we got to put that work in. Let's get it. All right, for the last segment on the Undrafted podcast, this is some bull jive. Former Mavericks player Harrison Barnes was traded to the Sacramento Kings during the Mavericks game against the Charlotte Hornets last week. LeBron James, he chimed in on Instagram and gave his opinion, saying, quote, "So let me guess. This is cool because they had to do what was best for the franchise, right? Traded this man while he was literally playing in the game and he had zero idea. Now, I'm not knocking who traded him because it's a business and you do have to do what you feel what's best, but I just want this narrative to start to get real and change, and not when a player wants to be traded or leaves a franchise that he's a selfish, ungrateful player, but when they trade you, release, waive, cut, etc., it's best for them. I'm okay with both, honestly, truly am. Just call a spade a spade. LeBron James could not be more right here." These professional sports teams have done a great job at getting fans to buy into the notion that if a player plays for their team, that he or she should be loyal to the organization and should basically be happy with what the team gives them. Now, the whole time, the team will always do what's in the best interest of the team 100% of the time, and they will cut, trade, release, waive these players at any time that they see fit, and all they'll do is chalk it up to being in the best interest of the team. Now, this is exactly why I have zero issue when players hold out for more money. This is exactly why when a guy like Dak Prescott, whose name has come up for a contract extension, this is why I have zero issue when he says he wants what's fair, aka market value, in his next deal. This is exactly why I have zero issue when players like Le'Veon Bell call these teams on their BS when the team wants to underpay a guy who has outperformed his contract. This is why I have zero issue when a player requests to be traded if he or she feels this move will be best for their career. Now, sure, you can get into the dynamics of a guy's big contract limiting what a team can do with salary cap in place and things like that, but that doesn't change the fact that if a player values money over winning, they're well within their rights to do so. There is no loyalty in professional sports, none. And as much as some people like to believe there simply isn't. When LeBron left the Cavs back in 2010 as a free agent, which means he was perfectly within his rights to leave, fans burned his jersey. They talked all kinds of crazy trash about him. They even talked about his mom. They talked about his family, and they painted him as a villain. Then you had Cavs owner Dan Gilbert. He wrote that crazy letter that had an extremely vindictive tone to it. Le'Veon Bell, he called the Steelers on their bull jive this past season, and they tried to make him look like the bad guy. Now, Antonio Brown here recently, he's requested a trade from the Steelers, and now some of their fans are burning his jersey and talking crazy about him as well. First of all, if you're going to burn a jersey that you spent your hard-earned money on, you're an idiot. I just want to say that first off. I mean, that makes no sense to me. What point do you prove? I mean, these videos where fans go and burn jerseys because they're mad at a player, what are you proving? I mean, these are truly some of the dumbest videos that I've seen on the internet. The player and the team, they've already got your money. They couldn't care less what you do with the jersey at that point. The minute you get that jersey at the point of sale, they don't care what you do with these clothes. They laughing all the way to the bank. If you're gonna get rid of a player's merchandise, donate it to a thrift store, donate it to a homeless shelter, donate it to somebody who accepts items for homeless people or less fortunate people. I mean, what point do you prove in setting somebody's jersey on fire? I just don't get it. That is truly one of the dumbest things and one of the dumbest concepts that I've ever seen or heard of. I mean, what are you proving that you're mad because this player made a decision that will 100% affect their lives and their families' lives, but will have zero impact on yours? I mean, come on, man, kill that noise. If these teams have every right to do what's in the best interest of the team, well, the player should have that same right as well. Let's stop acting like these teams can do no wrong when it comes to player negotiations, contracts, and operations. Let's stop acting like these teams won't replace these athletes in a heartbeat if they find a loophole in a contract for someone better or if the athlete gets hurt. Stop getting upset at athletes for making moves that affect their lives and careers and have no impact whatsoever on yours. Sports fans, getting upset with players for making moves to further their careers while gobbling up the PR mumbo-jumbo that these teams feed us? That's that bull jive. Well, that's my time for episode 41 of the Undrafted podcast. I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for blessing me with the gifts, the talents, and the resources to do this podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to tune in. Don't forget, you can follow the Undrafted podcast on Instagram or on Twitter at Row4ShowPro. And today I want to leave you with a chapter to read. John chapter 10. Get into the Word of God, man. He is truly the way, the truth, and the life. And no matter what you're going through, you can always look to God to help you through it. And like they said, if he brought you to it, he'll bring you through it. Remember, do your best and let God handle the rest. Be blessed.